We've all been there, right? That feeling that something's just off, like that friend who's always eager to borrow your last slice of pizza. Sometimes those small annoyances can be red flags. We're going to channel our inner Sherlock Holmes, exploring 7 subtle signs of fake friends and sprinkle in some ancient wisdom from the Stoics. Life's too short to be surrounded by people who drain your energy. By the end, you'll be a pro at spotting the fakes and protecting your peace. All right, let's kick things off with a classic sign of hidden dislike, the backhanded compliment. You know the ones I'm talking about. The compliments that feel less like genuine praise and more like a verbal backstab disguised as a hug. It's like getting a birthday card that says, "Congratulations on making it another year closer to death." Imagine this. You finally muster up the courage to show your friend your new haircut, the one you've been agonizing over for weeks, and they say, "Wow, that's different." It's definitely a bold choice. You're left wondering if they're impressed by your daring new look or secretly planning an intervention. And here's the thing about fake compliments. They often come with a side of insincerity that you can practically taste. It's like artificial sweetener. It might look and sound sweet at first, but leave a weird aftertaste. As Marcus Aurelius, the emperor philosopher himself, once said, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." And that's the key here, my friends, sincerity. Genuine compliments come from a place of authenticity, from a desire to acknowledge something you genuinely appreciate about the other person. They make you feel good, not like you need to go home and examine your life choices. So how can you tell the difference between a fake compliment and a real one? Well, it's all about paying attention to the delivery. A genuine compliment is usually accompanied by warm body language, like a genuine smile, eye contact, and a tone of voice that conveys sincerity. A fake compliment, on the other hand, might come with a forced smile, averted eyes, and a tone that screams, "I'm only saying this because I feel obligated." Think about it. Have you ever received a compliment that just felt off? Maybe the words were nice, but the tone was sarcastic or the body language contradicted the message. That, my friends, is your spidey sense tingling, telling you to proceed with caution. Remember, the Stoics were all about living in accordance with nature, and that includes being true to yourself and others. So the next time you're tempted to dish out a backhanded compliment, take a page from Marcus Aurelius's book and ask yourself, is this true? If the answer is no, maybe it's time to reevaluate your compliment game. Okay, so we've tackled the backhanded compliment, but let's move on to another classic maneuver in the passive-aggressive playbook, avoidance. You know, the drill, you're walking down the hallway and you spot that certain someone in the distance. Your heart skips a beat. You plaster on your best "hey buddy" smile, and then they swiftly duck into the nearest classroom, pretending they haven't seen you. Ouch. And look, I get it. We've all been on both sides of this awkward social dance. Sometimes you just don't have the energy for a full-blown conversation. Maybe you're having a bad hair day or you left your personality at home, but when someone consistently goes out of their way to avoid you, like you're the human embodiment of a tax audit, it might be time to face the music. They're just not that into you. I remember this one time back in high school. I was at a party and there was this girl I had a massive crush on, like the kind of crush that makes you write bad poetry and contemplate the meaning of life. Anyway, I finally worked up the courage to talk to her, but every time I got within a 5-foot radius, she'd magically disappear. It was like she had a sixth sense for awkward teenage angst. Now, I'm not saying that every time someone avoids you, it's a sign of deep-seated hatred. Maybe they're just having a bad day, or maybe they're late for a very important date with a plate of nachos. But when someone consistently dodges you, pay attention to those patterns. Are they always busy when you invite them to hang out? Do they suddenly develop a fascination with their phone whenever you're around? If this sounds familiar, you might be dealing with a master of avoidance. We often make ourselves miserable by overthinking situations, so before you spiral into self-doubt, ask yourself, is this about me or them? You deserve to be surrounded by people who actually want to be around you. If you're constantly ghosted, maybe it's time to invest your energy elsewhere. So, We've talked about fake compliments and avoidance, but let's move on to something a little more subtle: body language. Those non-verbal cues that can sometimes speak louder than words. And believe me, when it comes to figuring out if someone secretly dislikes you, body language can be a dead giveaway. It's like that feeling you get when you walk into a room and suddenly realize everyone's staring at you. Except in this case, it's less about being the center of attention and more about deciphering the secret language of crossed arms and forced smiles. Epictetus, the OG Stoic himself, once said, "The human being is a being for signs." And he wasn't kidding. We're constantly sending and receiving signals, whether we realize it or not. So pay attention to those subtle cues. Are they leaning away from you when you talk? Avoiding eye contact like it's the plague? Their body language might just reveal what their words are trying to hide. Now, I'm not saying you should become a human lie detector overnight. That's a lot of pressure, and honestly, who has the time? But being more aware of body language can definitely give you a leg up in the game of social dynamics. Think about it this way: if someone's words are telling you one thing, but their body language is screaming something completely different, it's probably time to trust your gut. It's like that time I was hanging out with a group of acquaintances, and this one guy, let's call him Ted, just kept subtly moving away from me during the conversation. Every time I took a step closer, he'd somehow find a way to increase the distance between us. At first I thought maybe I'd accidentally spilled something on myself, but then I realized, nope, it was just Ted sending me a clear and slightly hurtful message: please stay away from me. All right, let's talk about gossip, that juicy, irresistible, and often hurtful form of social currency that seems to plague humanity. It's like a virus spreading from person to person, leaving a trail of whispers and innuendo in its wake. And here's the thing about gossip: it's rarely a victimless crime. Sure, it might seem harmless at first, a little bit of whispered speculation here, a touch of exaggeration there, but the truth is, gossip can have real consequences, especially when it's directed at you behind your back. I mean, let's be real, we've all been both the gossiper and the gossiped about at some point in our lives. It's an unfortunate part of the human experience, but that doesn't make it right, because here's the thing: gossip often stems from insecurity, jealousy, or just plain old boredom. And when someone feels the need to talk about you behind your back, it's usually a reflection of their own issues, not yours. I remember this one time back in high school. I overheard a group of classmates gossiping about me. They were saying all sorts of things, most of which were completely untrue, and I'll admit, it hurt. It's funny how words can sting, even when they're coming from people you don't particularly care about. But then I remembered something my mom always used to tell me: people who gossip about you are simply paying rent for the space you occupy in their minds. And you know what? She was right, because at the end of the day, their opinions said more about them than they did about me. It's like that old saying goes: what other people think of me is none of my business. And it's true, we can't control what others say about us, but we can control how we react to it. So the next time you find yourself the subject of gossip, try to remember that it's not about you. It's about the gossiper's own insecurities and need to tear others down. We've all been there, right? You're going through a tough time, maybe you're facing a challenge, or you just need someone to lean on. You reach out to your friends, hoping for a shoulder to cry on, a listening ear, a word of encouragement. But instead of the support you crave, you're met with silence, or worse, indifference. And suddenly you realize that the people you thought you could count on are nowhere to be found. It's a painful realization, to say the least, because true friendship, the kind that withstands the storms of life, is a precious and rare thing. Seneca, the Roman Stoic philosopher, knew a thing or two about friendship. He once said, "True friendship is like sound health. The value of it is seldom known until it be lost," and he couldn't have been more right. Because it's often during our darkest moments that we discover who our true friends really are. When the chips are down and the masks come off, the people who genuinely care about us will rise to the occasion. They'll be there to offer a helping hand, a shoulder to cry on, a listening ear without judgment or expectation. They'll show up not because they feel obligated to, but because they want to. And then there are those who, well, they'll fade into the background. Maybe they'll offer a few empty words of consolation, or maybe they'll just disappear altogether. But here's the thing, their lack of support isn't necessarily a reflection of you. It's a reflection of them. It speaks volumes about their character, their capacity for empathy, and their understanding of true friendship. So if you find yourself surrounded by people who are conspicuously absent during your times of need, it might be time to reevaluate those relationships, because true friends, the ones who genuinely care, they'll be there, rain or shine. All right, let's talk about passive aggression. You know, that delightful communication style where someone expresses negative feelings indirectly through actions or thinly veiled words. It's like trying to decipher a cryptic message from the universe, but instead of unlocking profound wisdom, you just end up feeling vaguely annoyed. Think of it like this. Imagine you're at a dinner party and someone asks you to pass the salt. Easy enough, right? But instead of just passing the salt, the person says, "Oh, you're actually within reach of the salt? I thought maybe your arms were broken." Ouch! That's passive aggression in action. On the surface, it might seem like a harmless joke, but there's an undercurrent of something else going on. It's like they're trying to disguise their true feelings with a veneer of politeness, which, let's be honest, just makes it even more irritating. It's like trying to swat away a mosquito in the dark. You know it's there, but you just can't quite pin it down. Passive-aggressive behavior can manifest in countless ways, from backhanded compliments to subtle sabotage. It's the art of being rude while pretending to be nice. And it's a surefire sign that someone might not be as fond of you as they pretend to be. How do we deal with passive-aggressive ninjas in our midst? The Stoics have some insightful advice. Marcus Aurelius said, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury. Don't stoop to their level. Respond with calmness and directness. Call them out assertively, not aggressively. For example, say, 'That sounded a bit passive-aggressive. Is there something you'd like to say directly?' This disarms them and forces directness. Control your reactions, not their behavior. Rise above, be the bigger person. Your peace of mind is more valuable. Channel your inner Stoic and respond with grace. Sometimes the best way is to simply walk away. Life's too short for passive-aggressive games." Okay, let's talk about exclusion, that feeling of being left out, like you're on the outside looking in at a party you weren't invited to. It's a universal human experience, and let's be honest, it stings. Whether it's being deliberately excluded from a social gathering, a work project, or even just a casual conversation, that feeling of not belonging can be incredibly isolating. It's like that time in high school when everyone was going to see that movie you really wanted to see, and somehow you didn't get the memo. And then you spend the next week hearing everyone talk about how awesome the movie was, and you're just sitting there like, yeah, I bet it was. Exclusion can be especially hurtful when it comes from people we care about, people we consider to be our friends. It's a painful reminder that we might not be as close to them as we thought we were, and it can make us question our own worthiness, like, what's wrong with me? Why don't they want me around? And the worst part is, sometimes the exclusion is so subtle, so insidious, that you can't even really call it out. It's like a slow drip of poison, eroding your confidence and sense of belonging over time. So what do we do when we find ourselves on the outside looking in? Remember, you're not alone. Exclusion is common and doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. Focus on building relationships with people who value and appreciate you. The world is full of amazing people, and there's a tribe out there for everyone. It might take time, but it's worth it. Put yourself out there. Join a club, take a class, volunteer for a cause you care about. True friends include embrace your quirks and celebrate your successes. Well, there you have it, folks. 7 signs that someone might not be as fond of you as they pretend to be. From fake compliments and avoidance to passive aggression and exclusion, these behaviors can be hurtful and confusing, leaving us feeling unsure of where we stand. But as we've learned from the Stoics, the key to navigating these tricky social situations is to focus on what we can control, our own thoughts, emotions, and actions. Remember, it's important to surround yourself with genuine, supportive people who bring joy and positivity into your life. Don't waste your precious time and energy on relationships that drain you or make you feel inadequate. You deserve to be surrounded by people who celebrate your awesomeness, not tolerate it. So go forth and cultivate relationships with people who lift you up, inspire you, and make you feel like the best version of yourself. Apply these Stoic principles to protect your peace and build a circle of true friends who will be there for you through thick and thin. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more insightful content. And remember, you are awesome and deserve to be surrounded by people who recognize that. DFTBA.